Hi, welcome to the short course on getting to know Tableau. We're going to cover creating a dashboard, and instead of me pointing out what Tableau actually does, we're going to learn as we go by building this dashboard and making it interactive. It's going to be based on a rider data set, so you can see if we wanted to filter that by any one of these two classes. I'll show you how to build this to make this custom background and kind of make your data sing with Tableau. So the data set that we're going to be using is a bike share data set. So this data set is going to be 2 years worth of data. I'm going to show you how to append this all into one data source and also add holidays. So we're going to have 3 files that we're dealing with, and this is going to help you build that data model in the background. If you don't have Tableau, what you want to do is you want to go to Tableau Desktop, and you can start a free trial. Now, you might need a business email to do this. I have never tried it without a business email, so that might be something you need to investigate. You're going to start a free trial for Tableau, and that's going to give you Tableau Desktop here. And once you download it, you'll be presented with your Tableau Desktop application. So once you have your Tableau Desktop installed, this is what you're going to be presented with, which is the Tableau user interface. And we will go over this very briefly because it's better to learn by doing. However, I do want to call out some of the aspects of this UI. So as you can see, we have our data and analytics tab, and you can see in the data tab, we don't have anything because we need to connect to data. And we can connect to data by clicking that link, or we can do that from the data tab where we have new data source. And what that's going to allow us to is bring in data from files, as you see here, Tableau server, our own databases and servers, and a sample database, which is a superstore. Now you can see that Tableau is an enterprise solution based on all of the connectors you can see here. So you can see this is a tool that is often used with larger data lakes and database tools, and this will show you all of the ones you can connect to. There is also some custom ones that you can use. Pay attention to anything that is deprecated. You can definitely search for the one that you will use for your particular data visualization or desktop dashboard. So we can look at the top ribbon here, and we can look at file, and this is going to be able to bring in all the files that you want to do. The data we kind of talked about. Worksheet is going to allow you to create a new worksheet pane. Right now, this area here is your visualization pane, and you can see it's sheet 1 here, as is in Excel and Power BI. We also have the new worksheet plus sign here. We can create also different types of pages, such as new story and a dashboard. I will walk you through how to do that later. So, and then you can see that you have the dashboard options here and the story options here also. Analysis, you can see where you are able to do your aggregate measures and a few other types of analysis measures. This is where we bring in the type of map that we want to use and the background map options, as you can see here. Formatting, of course, we want to be able to format the sheet the way we want. The server is if you're signed into Tableau server. Window is how we want this window that we're looking at. You can see there's a presentation mode by pressing F7, similar to what you would see in PowerPoint. And then we go to the help, which is going to give us some great videos for help and also some other great visualizations and tools there. Now, here you kind of run into the same things where you're looking at that show and hide your different visuals. This is your presentation mode. Now, there are going to be options that we don't have access to because we don't have data. This is the Show Me pane that has all of the graphs and visualizations. As you can see here, it's a little bit grayed out because we don't have any data in just yet. And this is going to allow you to deal with all your calculations and filters and pages. So once we start building, this will make a lot more sense, but I just wanted to give you a quick walkthrough of the interface. Okay, let's work on bringing some data into our Tableau desktop. So we're going to go over to Connect Data, and we talked about all of the different files. We're going to bring in an Excel file, and we are going to find the location for that file. Mine is here. We're going to be looking at a bike share data. And you can see what happened is we have a Excel file. And let's evaluate the Excel file very quickly. So this Excel file has year 2011 and year 2012. We want to be able to combine those two. And we can see that the column structure is the same for both. So we can use the Tableau option to union this data. So you can see union here. So we want to bring that, we can bring those data sets in like this. And that's 2011. And if I bring in 2012, you can see it automatically tries to make a connection. Now, when I bring in 2011 with 2012, you see that we are given this error. So what happens is this is a join. We don't want to join these two tables because they do not have a unique key. So what we can do is remove 2012. So we remove 2012 and we remove 2011. We click New Union. You will be presented with this window. And we're going to drag our top table, so the table that we want on the top. And then we're going to grab our second table, and those are going to be smashed together. You can see the tables in the union are two. We're going to hit Apply. And then what we are given is the preview here. Now, in the preview, we can see that our rows are not there, and also in the section where it says union. What we can do is we can right-click this, and we can say Generate Fields Automatically. And you can see what happens is that now we are given these fields. And once we have this, we can go back into Union, and then we can click into Fields as the first row. Now that we have our union in there, we can also rename this. We can say Full Table, and we can go back to our Sheet 1. And then we can see that we have our union here, and it has our name, and we will be able to see, if we bring in that date time, you can see what I can do is I can double click date time, and now you can see that we have 2011 and 2012 in, and all we want to do is click on one of the measures here, and we can now see that we have all of our data there. We can use any other one of our features here. For example, we can use the casuals. And we will talk more about using this marks plane in 1 second. But you can see now that you can click into your table columns. You can do a validation to see that both of them have been brought in as a single union. So before we continue to build out our data model or get our data in the shape that we need it to produce our final visualizations, let's play around a little bit with producing visuals And as you see, simply by bringing in these two, I'm able to visualize this data in somewhat of a table. Now, if I navigate to the Show Me tab, you can see now we have access to all of these different visuals. And Tableau has a visual philosophy, so that's why you don't see an excessive amount of visuals. It's based on giving you the best visual to communicate to your viewer what is being shown. So you can see it has some of this visuals grayed out. So if we wanted to do a tree map for our visual here, we could just click and you could see it turns into a tree map. We could also do a bar chart, and all of these things we can play around with to show us what is going on. And you can see what happens is in our columns and rows, which is an indication of our table, you can bring in different visuals, but you can see for our text, it's the sum. Now we can change that sum to a different aggregation by pressing the down caret and going over and hitting the visualization, the average we want, and then playing around with our visual. I'm going to keep it at the table for the moment because there are other visuals that we can create later on, but just to give you an idea of the Show Me visual, and this would be in our sheet 1. So also to bring to your attention on the columns in the rows here, so you can see if I took this from text and brought it up to row, it will turn into a line chart. So what we can do once we have that is there's a plus sign here, and this means that there is a hierarchy. So we have year, and if I click the hierarchy, we have gone into quarters, and then that's what we have. Now we can also remove these also, and you can see when I remove them, we can stack them on top of each other. So if I remove quarter here, you can see what happens, or if I remove the date, the day, we're just stuck with the day. And because we have hours also, we can also move that. So that is our visualization pane. I'm just going to go and get the date time again, and I'll turn this into just a line chart, and we'll play around with this a little later. Okay, now what I want to do is be able to add another data source into this to enrich our data. So I'm going to go to the data source tab here, and you can see we're on the bike share data set. In this data set, we do have a column that says holiday, and that is a Boolean or 0 and 1 column, and it kind of gives us an indication whether it was a holiday there. I want to be able to add in the US holidays to see if my data was affected by any of the changes. So the way we can do that is now that we're highlighting this data set, which is our bike share data set, you can see there's a new tab there. So I'm going to add that tab there, and I'm going to say add a connection. Now, you can see the options that we can add to that. And I'm going to do a text file, and that text file represents what is called a comma separated value file, or a CSV. And that is essentially a text file where our values are kind of separated by commas for our columns and rows. So what we can do is click into that text file, and I'm going to bring in the US holiday dates, and you can see that spans from 2004 to 2021, which our data set is 2011 and 2012. So we are going to bring that in. And now you can see there's two connections there for our data set. We have our bike share data and our US holiday data. If I pull this over, you can see it makes an automatic connection. that's not exactly what we want to do, but you can connect these two in this method, which is pretty good because it will establish a relationship between those two files. Let me just click this off by just pulling it off, and we can review that holiday data set by clicking into the view data, and you can see that we have a date column and we have our holiday and day of week and month and the year here. So there's a bit of information, and you can see we have the data types on each one of those, and we have 342 rows. So what I'm going to do is, instead of bringing this in and letting it automatically connect, I'm gonna click open. So once you click open, you bring this in, and now you can see you have options to how you want things joined. We have an inner join, a left join, a right join, and a full outer join. So we need to specify which columns are going to be connected. Now we know we have a date time column for our data source, and for the holiday we have a date column. So now you can see there's an issue there because the date time column is going to have multiple, let's see if I can show you with the data preview. We'll just use this one. So with the data preview, you can see these are broken up into hours. So it's going to be multiple ones here for a single date, 24 or 23 to be exact. So what we need to do is create a date column so we can join these things properly. So we can do that by just clicking into that and going down to create a join calculation. So a calculation is going to allow us to use a function to change one of the column values. So we can use date function on that date time expression there, and it will make a date column. And in this section here, it will tell you if it's applicable. So I'm going to apply that, and now I have a date column. I'm going to hit OK. And now if I look at my bike share data, you can see we have a date column. Now if I want to join those two, you can see there's no longer an error and we're ready to go. And we don't want to use a inner join because that's going to restrict the table. I want to bring back all of the rows from my left table and match them to all of the rows in our right table. So I only want to bring back the holidays, and anything else that is not there will make it null. So I'm going to use a left join. And you can see, if we go back down to our data preview, we have our holiday there in the date and the specific period that we're looking at. So now we have done a join and you have gotten a chance to see a quick calculation. Okay, so let's dive into making some calculations. And these calculations we can do in many different places. And for example, if we go back to our data source, we can see that in our original data source, we have two columns here, casual and registered. Now, this represents the total count here. You can see once we have unioned it, and this is a count of each one of the writers. Now, of course, we can just right-click that and rename that total. But let me just show you how to make a new column here. So what we can do, we can click into this, and then you can see it says create a calculated field. And we can say, okay, we want a total. And that total is going to be registered plus that casual column, and you can see that easily makes a new total. Now we have two of those columns. Now we don't need to, but I just want to show you how you're able to do that. And we're also going to look at table calculations also. So we can also quickly bring in another sheet by clicking the little sheet here. And we know we have a union where we have our holidays. So now we can bring in that holiday from our holiday table. So I'm going to just click that. And I can bring in that total from here. And you can see that we have all of these particular holidays. And then we have this null here. So we can fix that by using another calculation. So I am going to go back to the data source for this calculation, and I'm going to go over to our holiday row here. So we see New Year's, and then we have null values because we did a left join. So we're bringing back nulls if it doesn't match from this data set. And if we hover over that data set, the union data set, you can see that it's made up of 3 tables. So once you're at that holiday, I'm going to right click and then I'm going to create calculated field. Now I want to be able to create a new column. I'm just going to call it holidays because this is holiday. And I'm going to use an if statement. So I'm going to say if is null. So now I'm using the function if null. And if it is null, it's going to give back a true. So if the holiday column is null, we know that's not a holiday. So we want to bring back a normal day. And I'm going to put that in parentheses, normal day. Else, give me the holiday column. The holiday with capitals. And then we can end this here. Now you can see the calculation is valid. And if I apply it, we'll have a new column called holidays. And hit OK. And then if I go back over, we should have our new column called holidays. And you see, for those null values, we have the normal day. If I go back over to my sheet and I bring out holiday and I bring in holidays, voila, we have a normal day. And now we can see the average instead of the sum of the riders for each of those particular periods. So I would go down to sum and click average. So now we can see the average rider for those holidays compared to a normal day. So because we have this nice table here, I might also want to see the sum next to that average. So I'm going to get the total again. I'm just going to double click it. And now that you see we have total. Now, this number may have some significance to our viewer, but what we can do is we can right click that sum and then we can do some quick table calculations. So we can add a table calculation or we can use one of the quick ones. I am just going to get a percent of total, and that will give us the percent of total for our normal day versus our regular value. So we can see that 95% of our riders by volume come on normal days, and we have some percentages here which may be something we can use later, but I just wanted to show you how to do a quick table calculation, and we will dive into these also later on. Okay, so we can also have our registered riders there if we bring this into our table here. So you can see if I bring registered there, we can see registered versus our casual writer if I bring that in. Now, the only issue with that is I would love to be able to create a one feature here or a column that is not a numerical value but a categorical value. And the reason we may want to do this is because we may want to do things like if we created a new sheet here, and we can also name these sheets. I'm going to call this my line chart. And I'm going to create a date time here. And I am going to bring in the count. And I'm going to turn that into a line chart. And then from that line chart, I'm just going to just break that hierarchy all the way down till we have a count by day. So you can see, oh, well, we're at week. Now we're at day. Now you can see how ragged that looks. In order to eliminate how ragged that looks, I want to use another table calculation. So I am going to right-click this and go down to quick table calculation, and I'm going to create a moving average. And you can see from here, you can see this delta sign, which means there is a table calculation with a moving average. And we can see that has gotten much smoother, but we can alter that table calculation by clicking it in, and then you can see we have the average sum with a 2-day moving average because it's taking the past 2 days and averaging them up and nothing forward. So I'm going to take the past 24 days. So if you highlight that start, so if we start from 24 days back to the current end day, which is now, and I hit enter, wow, look how smooth that becomes. Now, I do have two options here. This is the total count. Of course, we could use a different metric, such as our registered writers and our casual writers, but I'm going to show you how to create a column here where we can do that by pivoting our original data. So that's showing you your moving average there that we can bring in later to our calculation. And you can see that's a window average. If you know anything about averages, window just means what time frame that you are dealing with, similar to what you see in SQL. So we'll look at pivoting our data right after this. So now you can see that this line, which is our Windows function, which is our running average here, looks a bit different. And the reason mine looks different is because I just wanted to give you a walkthrough. So in this section here, we have connection that's live and an extract. So if you want to refresh that data, you would just click into this and it will refresh that data set. And I refreshed mine because I didn't have enough RAM in my PC and it wasn't loading all the data. So now it is. So you should be seeing somewhat of a shape like that. So that'll give you a way, if you have any values that are not matching up, just go over to that data source and then do the refresh. So now let me show you how to pivot your data. So here we are. We have our bike share data set here. And what I want to do is go back over and look at these two columns. Now I want to be able to filter by those two columns. However, those two columns are now without any categorical features. So they're not a dimension. These are actually measures. So I want to switch them to a dimension where each line is representative of registered or casual. So I'm going to highlight both of these. And then I'm going to right click I'm going to go down to pivot. Now this is going to mess up a whole lot of things, and we can go and fix this, don't worry. So you see casual is here, and there's an issue. Registered is here, and this is also, total is also gone. So I'm going to eliminate those columns just by highlighting it and click delete. And you can see it says, oh, you have a problem. Sheet 1 and 2 are being affected because you deleted values. Okay, I understand. I also going to delete, oh, the total was deleted. Now, what I want to bring your attention to is now we have registered and casual. And then we still have that correct count of 16. So it's just broken down by 3 and 13. Now that count is not going to be correct unless we add the 2, because you see it's duplicated here. But we don't have to use that value. We can use the value that we create here. So I'm going to rename this total. And then I'm going to eliminate that count column later because I just want to use that as a reference. So now I'm going to go back to sheet 1, and we know that is having issues. So you can see what we had before is now gone, the measure names. But what we can do is, I believe on this column, we just had the date time. So I'm going to remove that and remove this, and I'm just going to click date time, and then I can get my total here that we replaced. Should be here, and you can see that we have those 2 values there. Now you can see my values are different from before because I had to update the data and it wasn't coming through, but it still equals our total amount there that we had before. So I'm going to go back over, and now we have our measure names. We have holidays, and I'm going to get rid of those measure values. And then I'm going to bring in my total now. And now you can see we are back in business. Next, I'm going to my line chart, which should be okay, but let's see that it's using the count, and we know it might be double counting. So let's use our total. And then we hit that, and should be pretty much similar. Now, since we have those 2 dimensions, which are called at the moment pivot field names, and I'll just show you in the data set. You can see if I go back over to pivot field names, we have 3 for casual and 13 for registered, and then our count here is 16. I know we don't no longer need this, so I'm going. So I want to show you can add that data to the pivot, so I'm going to hit add to pivot, and I'll show you what happens here is that we'll get the count in the pivot. So this is going to ensure that we have the correct number there, but it can get kind of messy because you can see you're adding extra values to that total. So what you can do is, now that we have this column, we can go back up to the top and we can add a filter. So I'm going to add a filter, add, and I'm going to go to that pivot table where it says total. And then I'm going to go to total. And then I am going to say, oops, not total. I want to go to the values, my mistake. So I want to go to add, and I want to go, I think it's still called pivot field names. And then I just want to bring in casual and registered and hit OK. And now you can see all we have is casual and registered. Now if we go back over to that line chart, we already have our total. So we should be in okay shape. So now that we have that pivot field name, but we can rename that. Let's call it writer type, maybe. And we can take that dimension and pull it over, and it will split our value. So now you can see the benefit of having that. So let's start building some visuals where we can answer some of the questions that would be around this writer type. Okay, so I'm going to just go to the next visual, which is sheet 4, and I'm going to create a heat map. All right, so what we want to be able to do is get our date time value, and what we want to be able to do is look at the day of week, but first we have to see if we have that. So we can see we have month and we have week, but we don't have day of week, but we do have hour. So I'm just going to get rid of some of these and just pull them out. And we do have hour, and I think I want hour on the axis here as like an index, and I'm going to put days a week here. So we know we don't have that day of week value, so maybe if I pull that over here and then I go to custom, and then I go to the date value, date part, and then I can maybe get the weekdays here. And then I hit OK. And then you can see we get weekdays. I'm going to take that and bring it back up, and boom, we have the weekdays. So now that we have the weekdays, we can bring in that value of that total in here. But now I don't really like it like this because it doesn't look like a heat map. And we do have some nulls here, so let's eliminate that. We're going to exclude the nulls because we just want Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Even though we chose weekday, our data set doesn't have that weekday value in it. It might be starting from a different part of the week. So we can see that Thursday is missing. So I am going to put a new calculation here. Date, it's probably easier to do this here. So I'm going to remove that out. And I'm going to go here and put a new calculation so we can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to do date name. And then the date part, I'm going to go weekday. And here I'm going to do the date. Let's do date time so we get all of the values. And then I am going to put the start of the week, Sunday. And let's make sure this is single quotation. And this is weekday like this, I believe. And then Sunday. And there we go. So that fixed our issue. We can remove this from the rows. And we can bring this down to rows. And now we can bring this out. And then we can bring the total back in. We'll bring that back up to our columns here. And then now we can bring in that hour that we want. So I'm going to bring that down. And then I am just going to say I only want the hour. So now we have all those values that we want. And we have our Thursday because our date is starting on Monday. So I don't like it like this. We can definitely use a different visual. So if I click on color and I bring in the sum on color here, you can see what happens. But if I remove the lettering here, now we have a heat map. And that heat map shows us where the writers are kind of aggregating. We can see 8 p.m. and about 5 p.m. we're getting the most writers. So we can customize this a little bit more later, but you can see you can have a heat map here. And you don't have to restrict yourself to these colors. You can see you can edit the color and change how it is being situated. So you can see use step if you want. If I put apply, You can see it changes a bit. We can definitely change the color back to something different. For example, we could go with a green and go to OK. And then we can use different color steps here for our colors. And this goes all the way to white, you see. So if I hit apply, you can see that heat map changes. I am going to just take it back to the original and we can play around with it later. So let's continue on. We have a line chart, heat map. Let's just quickly put together a pie chart. So we create a new sheet. And what we're going to do, since we have that new dimension that we created, I'm just going to put pie chart here. And then I am going to get the variable that I want, which is the writer type. And then I'm going to get the total. And then you can see that split up by casual and registered. And I just turn that into a pie chart. Now, you might be asking, hey, why are we building all these individual sheets for our charting? And there is a reason. So let me change this to holiday. What we do is when we have these sheets, we can build a dashboard. So I'm going to show you the new dashboard by clicking that. So you click new dashboard, and now you have some options here. So let's review them. In the bottom left here where it says objects, you are able to add objects to your dashboard. For example, we can add text, we can add any type of images, and then we can add them as a tile, which automatically brings them in, and as floating. So let me just give you an idea. If we wanted to bring in a heat map, we would double click that and bring that in, and you can see that it is there. Now, if I bring in the line chart, and you can see it allows us to put it somewhere as a tile. So I can put it there. Of course, we can adjust the sizing of the dashboard with this section here that says size. That gives you how you would actually change the different sizes. And if we wanted to bring text in, you see you would have to fit it as a tile. Now, the other option is to use floating. So you can see I can choose floating, and I can bring in that pie chart, and I can just put it anywhere I want. Now, there are advantages of building a dashboard like this. We can also change the interaction. For example, if I wanted to use this pie chart as a filter on that dashboard, you can see if I click it, it will change the images on that dashboard. It's messy at the moment, but you can see the advantages of doing this. Also, we can also change the background of the dashboard, but I wanted to give you kind of how dashboards are created in Tableau. We would definitely need to imagine how we want this to look like. I'm going to show you a final dashboard that we've created, and then we'll build back in reverse so you know that I have put this together and have the structure that you need to put it together. All right, so eventually what we want to get to is a completed dashboard like this. And this is the final product, but I'm going to take you through each one of the steps in order to get that. And let me just give you a quick preview of this dashboard. So what is going on here is we have a heat map. I like the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on top of the actual days of weeks, but I'll show you multiple ways to do this with a few calculations. And we'll also learn how to do new calculation. So I have that heat map as my center. I brought that in as a floating tile. I have this as a floating tile, and all of the others are floating tiles. As you see, I can easily move them in order to get them settled. The background is a background that I got from our PowerPoint. And you can get this PowerPoint so you can see that gradient that looks really nice, where it looks like some light is coming through. We created a filter. I'll also show you how to do that, and a KPI, which I will also show you how to create. So we already have the majority of this done. So I just wanted to show you what the final product looked like. And then as you can see, when we have this filter, we can actually filter, and you can see that we get quite a nice effect here where we can see, wow, for our casual writers, we can see there's a big increase when it comes to writers at the end of the weekend as compared to our registered writers, which you can see that heat map shows that they're mostly on the weekday. So that's why I kind of chose to put it like that. But also, I brought some icons in. I'll show you how to get those icons and everything. And we should be pretty good to go with our final build. So let's get started. So we can eliminate this dashboard. We're not going to use it, but we are going to create a new dashboard. So we're going to navigate back down and then hit this new dashboard creation. So now we have our dashboard sheet. The first thing we're going to do is change our size of our dashboard here where you see size, and we're going to make that 1200 by 800. So we're going to have a bigger width there for our dashboard. One thing we want to do is go to our heat map here and kind of make that a little bit better. As you can see, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday and Saturday, you might want to have that option where it goes in that method, but I really like when you can see the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is not necessary. So what I'm going to do is navigate to here, and I'm going to put a new calculation, and I'm just going to do ISO weekday, which is here, and then I'm just going to pass in that date time and hit enter. And then you can see we get that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now, if I pull this in front, you can see now it puts everything in order. Now, that's up to you. We can also create another calculation, but I really like that it's ordered this way. We can create another calculation here if you want the shorter weekday name. We can go to Analysis, then go down to Create a Calculated Field. And what you're going to do here is we're going to combine two calculations. And the reason I want left, because I want to make the string a bit shorter. So you can see I'm going to pass in the string, which is going to be our date time, date name. So we need to turn that into date time. So date name, and then we're going to put in our weekday, then our date time, and then outside of that, we want to make sure that we only want the first three, and I'm going to call it abbreviated. So this is just to show you another calculation you can do. So if you wanted to, you could bring that in here, and you could see it's going to give you that shortened day of the week. So it's up to you, but I wanted to show you a different option there. So now let's bring that into our dashboard. So we're going to choose floating here, and we can see heat map. So I'm going to bring the heat map here, and now as you can see, this heat map is bringing in our heat map here, and we might want to change the colors. So if you don't change the colors first, it's going to bring this in. So let's exit out of this first and change the color. Go back over to heat map. I'm going to go over to color. You're going to go edit colors, and then we're going to go to our automatic here, and you're going to click the drop down. Then you can choose one of these drop downs that you like. So I want mine to kind of start at blue, so I'm going to see if anything starts with blue and doesn't look like it. So I can choose one of these diverging ones like this, and I can choose reversed. And I want my red to be a little bit lighter and more of an orange. So I'm going to bring that over. And then I'm going to choose here and maybe bring it a little like that. And then hit apply. And then you can see now we get that kind of look that we want. Now we bring that over to our dashboard. And if we go heat map, just click that in as floating. Now you see you have the correct gradient there. And as you see, when you bring this in, you can see it's not very well fitted in this, right? So you don't want to keep stretching this to the different sizes. So what we're going to do is, oh, here it is. So we're going to right click and do fit fit to width and or fit to entire view. And now you can see the whole thing fits in there with all your hours. And we can definitely, go back and rename all these different titles to something you want. But this is going to be like, kind of in the top center of our dashboard. So I'm just going to pull this in and just kind of make this a little bit nicer looking. So, and I won't worry about getting it perfect because you know how we want it pulled in. Let's go back and get that line chart, and we pull that in also. And we're going to put that down here. And you can see we get that casual here. Also, we're going to pull in our pie chart, and we're going to put that over here. Now you can see our pie chart is not, we don't have the titles and everything we want. But we're going to just get everything kind of centered. We also want to pull in our holiday table somewhere around here. And let's move everything over a bit. And we're going to put, we know we're going to put our holiday table here. We can also right click this here and you can do fit to entire view. So it gets a little bit, better situated. Just going to like slowly just show you how to do this. I'm going to get rid of some of this stuff. So because I don't want to spend too much time showing you how I build each part of the dashboard, because you're going to be able to do that. So that's going to be kind of what we want when we want. But what we don't have is a KPI sheet. So I'm going to go down here and get the KPI. So I'm going to bring this in where I have a new sheet. And you know what we want. We want our total. But we don't want it as a bar chart. So we're going to go over to show me, or you can even click from the automatic here and be able to change the maps. But what we want is a table, so you can see that, and we want to be able to format this. So you can either go up to format, and you see we click font on the left side. It's in the Tableau book. We can just make that bigger, and there you go. Now we're going to go back over and call this KPI, and we're going to bring that into our dashboard. So click off our field, and then we bring in our KPI here, and you can see everything is floating. We can definitely change the sizes for things like this, and then we can definitely click that top bar and fit to entire view. And then now we have a KPI. I don't like using the titles. I kind of like using my own title. So, but you can see we're slowly forming our dashboard. Now we can use the objects here if you go down to the bottom. So these are objects we can bring into the dashboard. So you can see I can bring text into the dashboard, and I'm going to call this my writer dashboard. And what we can do is change that font. We can make it a much bigger and bolder. Let's see. That'll be our writer dashboard. And we just say OK. And then we can put that up here and make sure we spell writer correctly. But this is just giving you the format because I want you to build this to your specifications. Oh, we're missing one visual. We need to bring in a bar chart of the quarters. So we're going to make another sheet, and we're going to call that sheet quarters. And you can bring in whatever you like. So we're going to bring in quarters, and we use the date time here as the top. And then we just go off the quarters, and we pull out year. We go over, and we bring in the total. But we want to change that total to an average. So we bring that in after we double click. And then we bring in average. And now you see we have the averages. Now we want a horizontal bar chart. And we want a gradient. We want to be able to bring this. So I'm going to control and click that and then bring it into colors. And then you can see we get that gradient. And it's automatically blue. You can change it now to edit colors to the gradient that you want. Go back over to the dashboard, and now we can bring in that final visual and just bring it in, and then we can right click and then fit to view and then bring that in. Now obviously we have a background that we need to deal with and dividers. So we'll do that next. Okay, so we can do a few things here. We can take our background and change it to what we like, or we can bring in a particular background. So I'm going to go to Format, Dashboard, and then you can see the default shading, and then we can choose any color we like. So if you see, if we choose black, we need to make sure that our charts have the right background. So let's go and show you how to change the chart backgrounds. So let's deal with our line chart here, and if we wanted to change the background, you go to Format, then go to Shading, then you can see the worksheet here, and for our worksheet we can just click None. So by doing that, if we go back over to the dashboard, you can see that this is all clear. Now we can do that for all of our other ones. I'll just show you one more time. So we want to go back over. We want to go to Format, Shading. We can see Worksheet. We click None. And now we know that if we go back over to the dashboard, we need to deal with the titles. So we need to change these to colors. So in the same way, if I go back over to the line chart, you can see from our shading here, we can go over to A, which is going to indicate the font. If I click the worksheet, so everything that's going to be on this worksheet, I click white for that, and you can see that disappear, and now you will have that there. So I'm going to just quickly do all of these. So I changed the background, but you can see there's some discrepancies here. Let's deal with the holiday banding here. So let's go back over to our holiday tab, and we can deal with the rows, and we can make sure there is no shading on our rows. So we can click Shade, and then you can see row banding there. We hit None, and we can also do that for the header. That goes back to the dashboard. Now let's go back and change the color over to white. So we click this again, click into our font, and then click A for and then go to white, and then we have our dashboard colors. So we can do that for everything on this dashboard, but let's go over to deal with some of the things that we want changed here. We also want the labeling here, and we want to get rid of the rows. So let's go and do that. So we go to bar chart. Where's our bar? And quarter here. So we have our, so we want to get rid of those grid lines that are here. Well, that's in a slightly different place. You want to go over to where it says lines, and then you see the lines here. So we want to go with None for grid lines. That should do it, and there we go. Now let's add the white here. Oh, we should also add labels to our pie chart. So I'm going to do labels, show marks, and then we also want these to go white. So we go back over and we go white. The titles, you can hide the titles. It's up to you. We can also, remember, make this fit to the entire view so it's a little bit more aligned. Now, if you want to add a background, let me take you through that. So this is a background that I just got from PowerPoint. You can get any type of background you want. So for example, let me just show you how to generate a background. So you can put dark blue gradient background as the title. Then we can go up to design, and you can see it generates that for you. And all you got to do is, okay, this is the background you want. You copy it, make a new slide, go to new, and you get rid of all of this. And there you go. And then you just want to copy this as a PNG with, you can use snipping or something like this. Save it as a PNG. Then once you have that, we can bring that into the dashboard. Okay, so now we can go in and bring in that background. So here you go down to the objects, go to image. Then you want to get the image that you want. I don't want to fit it. So you can see that's automatically selected. We choose the background we're looking for and hit OK. And that brings that in. Now you can't really see it because we have that dark background, but if I pull it out like this, now you can see that it covers everything. And all we need to do is, you can see it covers, but there is a floating order. So go up to this, go to floating order, send to the back, and boom, you have your dashboard. Now you want to pull this out so it fits a little bit better. So now you have the background that you want, and it looks nice. So make sure when the background is saved as a PNG, for us to create lines, we want to get a blank here. Then we go to layout, and then you can see where it says background instead of none. We're going to click white, and then now you have this white background for the divider. So if I wanted to put this little line under our KPI here, in order to get to that writer, the writer type, I want to use this writer type. So I'm just going to highlight onto our pie chart here, and I'm going to go over to analysis, and I'm going to go to filter, and then you can see I have writer type. So here is the filter here, and we can definitely optimize this filter a little bit. So you can see if you right click it, you can do different types of filters. You can use a drop down. You can do a single click, which I kind of like, and I'm going to put that, around here, and then you can see that it will click on certain things. Now we can optimize this where it does the whole dashboard. So let's right click it again, and then you can see it will give you options. Apply to all worksheets. Now you can apply it to all worksheets, or all worksheets related to the data source, or all worksheets using the data source, or selected worksheets. So you need to think about this, because when this filter is applied, if you put all to all worksheets, it's going to be applied to all the worksheets that you have. I'm just going to click that just because it makes it easy for me, and I know that those worksheets are not going to be used. So you can see when we click it, it changes every one of the values. And we also need to make sure that holidays is an average and not the. And finally, what we can do, we can go to a website called Flat Icons, and let me just show you. You can bring this website up, and you can get free icons, and you want to take those icons and turn them into the icon color that you're interested in. And then you can use this color changer. You can bring those in the same way. So for example, if I wanted to bring in a writer, where is it? Let's take this off to dashboard. And then if I wanted to bring in an image, and I would just choose that where that image is located, click OK, and then you can see you can bring in that PNG. I bring in that PNG, and then I'm able to, create this dashboard. Now, what should our final dashboard look like? Let me show you. So our final dashboard, after we have everything all situated, this is what the final dashboard looks like. You should be able to do all of these things. Change the text color to the color that you like. Move everything around that's floating. We have a hierarchy. I just added some text here to say what the dashboard is doing. We have our averages here, and I just added back my grids to this by adding to white. But you can see I haven't changed much. I just organized everything. It all works well. And then you can see how great that is, that we can see when the writers are actually coming for casuals. The most of them are coming at the weekend from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday in those nice hourly periods. So you might want to change this where it doesn't filter this particular worksheet. So you might want to go back and change that. But this is the final dashboard. I hope you learned a lot. You can see my icons here. If you got any questions, please leave those in the section below. Thank you.